There are forests in the United States that carry a kind of silence that does not feel natural, a silence that seems to gather around anyone who steps a few meters away from the trail. It is inside these landscapes that the phenomenon known as Missing 411 emerges, a pattern of real disappearances documented over decades by search teams, forest rangers, and regional reporters. The term is not official. It originated from the work of former police officer David Pauly Days, who identified hundreds of cases in national parks where people vanish abruptly, as if stepping across an invisible threshold. The strangeness begins in the first minutes. Individuals move only a short distance, away sometimes to tie a boot, collect water or look at a fallen tree, and then disappear without sound, without distress, without footprints. When the alert is raised, the search follows strict protocols. Tracking dogs sweep the area. Volunteers line the trails with reflective markers, and drones scan deep ravines. Yet something unusual repeats across many incidents. The dogs freeze. They sniff the air, step back, whine softly, and stare at the same point in the forest, as though detecting something beyond human perception. Handlers have mentioned this behavior for years, though many avoid speaking publicly to protect their reputations. Still, it appears in internal reports from searchers in Yosemite, Montana, Colorado, and the remote Idaho Panhandle. Another recurring detail is the impossible return. For days, teams circle the same ground, documenting every trace, every disturbed branch, every muddy print. Nothing appears. Then suddenly, the missing person, alive or dead, is discovered precisely where the teams had already searched multiple times. Rangers refer to this quietly as the return, an unofficial term passed between veterans. In one widely reported case in Oregon, a 2-year-old boy reappeared seated beside a fallen log, clean, uninjured, only 700 meters from where he vanished. Animal tracks were found around him, but nothing indicated how a child that small could have traveled through such terrain. Environmental anomalies also disturb investigators. Compasses drift several degrees without explanation. Radios pick up strange interference, and sharp temperature shifts occur in mountainous regions. Made of granite rock, a detail present in many clusters. Rangers describe sudden pauses in natural soundscapes. Birds stop singing, wind halts abruptly, and the forest feels too dense, as though absorbing sound rather than reflecting it. Unusual clothing behavior appears in several reports. Items are found neatly folded, boots placed side by side, pants turned inside out. The lack of logic is unsettling. Predators do not fold jackets, and victims of hypothermia do not calmly undress after traveling long distances through hostile terrain. Each detail reinforces the sense of an unknown, environmental or human factor, something operating at the edge of the visible. What makes the missing 411 phenomenon so unsettling is the almost mathematical repetition of its patterns. In case after case, witnesses describe a sudden environmental shift moments before someone vanishes. The air becomes unnaturally dense. The forest quiets in a way that feels intentional, and a brief sense of disorientation spreads among those nearby. This breakpoint has been reported in disappearances inside Great Smoky Mountains National Park around Mount Shasta and deep within the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, forming one of the strongest behavioral clusters documented by search teams. Investigators tend to divide themselves into two camps. One group believes the answer lies in unexplored natural mechanisms, abrupt microclimate changes, unusual electromagnetic fields, or geographic depressions capable of confusing even experienced hikers. The other group suspects human interference, subtle, organized, and hidden behind the wilderness. They compare modern cases with older rural accounts that describe travelers feeling followed by something they could never quite see. Anthropologists studying cultural records find similarities between indigenous stories, early settler journals, and contemporary reports, suggesting a long historical continuity. Survivors, when found alive, bring another layer of complexity. Children especially describe experiences that sound dreamlike, claiming they were carried, kept warm, or guided by something they struggled to describe. Some are located miles away with normal body temperature despite cold exposure that should have caused hypothermia. Local media rarely publishes these details, but medical reports obtained through information requests confirm that such anomalies have appeared in official documents for decades. Search teams frequently encounter another recurring detail: the moment when they believe they have reached the edge of the search. Grid is often when the missing person or their remains appear. In a widely discussed Utah case, a woman's body was discovered just 300 meters from the main trail in an area combed repeatedly by expert crews. No drag marks, no footprints, no disturbed vegetation. The official report labeled it a search oversight, yet multiple rescuers stated privately that the clearing had been checked multiple times. On the same day, clusters of disappearances complicate the phenomenon further. In regions such as the Adirondacks, the Ozarks, and interior Alaska, maps reveal tight geographic groupings of cases, separated by decades, yet sharing identical markers: sudden silence, weather shifts, discarded clothing, and bodies reappearing where they should not be. These clusters outline what investigators call an alternate geography, a hidden map of areas where the environment behaves in ways that defy conventional explanation, and as new cases emerge, the pattern grows harder to ignore. The absence of complete official records on disappearances inside U.S. national parks deepens the sense of uncertainty surrounding missing. 411, unlike other federal agencies, the National Park Service does not maintain a public list of long-term missing persons, forcing journalists to reconstruct timelines using scattered sources such as regional newspapers, rescue bulletins, and interviews with retired rangers. When these fragments are placed side by side, a pattern emerges: disappearances cluster in specific geographic zones that share geological and environmental traits. Some of these areas have documented abrupt changes in temperature, unexplained compass deviations, and sound dampening effects described by search teams as unnatural silence. Internal reports mention cases that defy conventional explanations. One of the most cited occurred in Colorado, where two brothers vanished while walking on parallel trails only a few meters apart. No commotion, no cries, no footprints suggesting struggle. The only trace found was a child's hat carefully placed on a stone. When the boys were discovered 2 days later, they were miles away in different altitudes. The younger brother was barefoot, yet the soles of his feet showed no injuries. He could not explain how he crossed steep terrain normally, considered unsafe even for trained adults. Official reports omitted those medical details, but rescuers later confirmed them informally. Electronic anomalies add another layer of complexity. Radios that normally function perfectly lose signal when approaching certain clearings. Drones experience sudden disconnections, and flashlights flicker without repeating the malfunction elsewhere. Scientists claim that some granite formations can affect electromagnetic behavior, but none of the available studies explain why these disruptions coincide precisely with the moment a person disappears. Clothing patterns remain one of the most puzzling markers in missing 411 cases. Folded jackets, inside-out pants, boots placed symmetrically. None of these align with typical accident scenarios. While paradoxical undressing can occur in advanced hypothermia, those episodes involve severe physical decline, which contrasts with the large distances some victims traveled. Moreover, many disappearances occur near bodies of water, creeks, lakes, waterfalls, or marshes. Rangers refer to these places as cold corridors, zones where sunlight barely penetrates and the temperature drops rapidly after sunset. These features appear repeatedly in clusters across multiple states, suggesting that environmental factors may play a role, though no single explanation accounts for the totality of the phenomenon. Among all recorded cases, some are considered full pattern events because they contain multiple classic missing 411 markers. One such case occurred at Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. A man stepped away from his group for less than 2 minutes to photograph. The lake's rim, one of the deepest in the United States, When his friends called out for him, the echo returned sharply, indicating no obstacles to sound. Hours later, search teams arrived and found only a pair of boots positioned neatly side by side on a steep slope where even standing upright was difficult. Helicopters scanned the area for 3 days without success. No footprints, no clothing scraps, no evidence of a fall. Another striking case took place in the Adirondack Mountains of New York. A mother watched her 5-year-old son kneel to pick up a stone. She turned to call her husband, and when she looked back, the boy was gone. During the initial search, trackers found small footprints leading in conflicting directions, suggesting movements that would have been impossible for a child in such a short time frame. On the 3rd day, the boy was discovered sitting beside a charred log, barefoot and oddly calm, without signs of cold exposure. When questioned, he simply said he slept near a light that made noise. Volunteers recorded this comment privately, though it never appeared in the official report. In Missouri's Ozarks region, 2 experienced hunters vanished in separate incidents within a 3-kilometer radius. One left a knife embedded precisely in a tree trunk, as if marking a location. The other abandoned his backpack against a perfectly flat boulder, with every item inside neatly arranged. The meticulous organization witnessed in both cases mirrors a recurring behavior found in clustered disappearances. The victim appears to take deliberate actions in the moments before vanishing. Though the intention remains unclear, Alaska offers some of the most challenging terrain for search operations. In a case near Juneau, a sudden storm formed within minutes, reducing visibility to almost nothing. A week later, the missing person was found in a ravine where water flowed too swiftly for safe passage. Yet no drag marks, scratches, or bruises were detected. Official conclusions cited exposure, but rescuers who participated in the search disputed that explanation, stating privately that the location appeared physically unreachable under the conditions reported. These cases highlight a recurring theme: sudden disorientation, removed clothing, unstable weather shifts, and bodies reappearing in previously searched zones. Together, they strengthen the idea that missing 411 events are multifactorial. Geography, psychology, environmental extremes, and unknown variables intersect in ways that challenge traditional investigative methods. Each case stands alone, yet collectively they form a structure that resists simple answers. When viewed as a whole, missing 411 resembles a cartography of absences rather than isolated events. Each disappearance marks a coordinate within a larger outline, an invisible map drawn across American wilderness. This map exposes regions where environmental rules appear to bend, locations where people vanish without struggle, noise, or trace. The lack of a single unifying explanation contributes to the mystery's longevity. Researchers propose various theories: misinterpreted accidents, undisclosed human interference, extreme geography, atmospheric anomalies, and psychological responses triggered by overstimulation or panic. Yet none of these frameworks explain the recurring combination of distance, speed, and environmental behavior. Studies of victim behavior before vanishing reveal surprising consistency. Many individuals exhibit calmness rather than distress. They pause to examine small details: water flowing over rocks, unusual tree formations, or the rustle of leaves, as if subtly drawn toward a focal point. Psychologists suggest that under specific natural conditions, human perception narrows and awareness fades at the edges, creating brief windows of vulnerability. But this explanation fails to clarify cases where people disappear within seconds, in full view of others. Search teams describe an ongoing sense of dissonance during operations. Trails appear to change subtly depending on the angle of light. Echoes distort directionality. Shadows stretch in ways that make depth perception unreliable. While these effects can occur naturally, the frequency with which they coincide with disappearances creates unease among experienced rescuers. In some clusters, dogs refuse to continue searching and display avoidance behavior, uncommon in trained animals. Some geologists argue that interactions between granite, groundwater, and rapid temperature shifts may produce microclimate anomalies, capable of causing temporary sensory disruption. These events could explain disorientation, but not the cases where bodies reappear in thoroughly scanned areas. Nor do they account for the meticulous arrangement of clothing or objects left behind. Despite the mystery, national parks remain statistically safe. Millions of visitors travel through them yearly without incident. Missing 411. Cases represent a minuscule fraction, yet stand out because they defy standard investigative logic. They form a mosaic of stories that resist closure, blending environmental science with investigative gaps and human vulnerability.